Bole Baba Ki Jai. If you remember in our last story, Sati had doubted Lord Shiva when he explained to her about Rama and Sita. And further back, one of the requirements that Shiva had for having a wife, which he was not very excited about doing originally, was that she be a yogini, so that when he meditated, she would also be able to do that, and also extremely strong, like a Devi, to hold his supreme energy in her when they were together in a husband and wife fashion. And the third was that she would never doubt him, and if she did, he would leave her. So this was an instance of doubt, and it didn't bode well, let's say. So on they went, and shortly after this, Sati's father, Daksha, had come to a large yagna, a large fire ceremony that was being celebrated. And Shiva was already there with Sati, and they had the seat of honor because he's the Lord of the universe and she is the goddess with him. So when Daksha came and his wife, it was not proper for them to stand up and honor him as he normally would a father-in-law. So this is part of the whole way they do the yagnas and how they place Shiva at the head of it all. Well, Daksha did not like this, and he started screaming and yelling at Shiva. Daksha had grown particularly arrogant after Sati married Shiva, and it was perhaps at root only grief at losing his daughter and a little pique that she had married someone greater than him. So when Daksha arrived with his wife and Shiva did not bow to him, Daksha was furious. He strode up to Shiva and cried, "The Asuras, the mightiest in the universe, these rishis, the wisest in creation, bow to me. How it is that a man surrounded by bhutas and pretas does not even get up? Is he so full of lust and self-importance that he forgets the holy conventions? I curse you in this august Sabha of Brahmins and Devas. You shall not get your share of Hava's ugly one. Shiva, you have no pedigree. I, Daksha, expel you from the yagna." The rest of the people at the yagna, including Lord Brahma, who's relating this story, were thunderstruck. Brahma goes on and says, "Not even I, who had noticed my son's pride growing for some time, expected such insanity from him." But Bhrigu and some of the others supported Daksha. They mocked Shiva. Rolling his eyes, Nandi closed in on Daksha. "Witless Daksha, how can you expel my lord from the yagna? He is the yagna. His blessings make the sacrifice fruitful. How can you, worm, dare curse the sire of the universe?" Daksha was beside himself. "I curse Shiva's upstart ganas. You are all expelled from this ritual. You will be abandoned by everyone that follows the Vedic path. You shall be heretics, and you will be wine imbibers. Ashes and bones will be your ornaments." Bhrigu and the others applauded. Nandi flashed at them. "Daksha, you fool, your vanity deludes you. You, Bhrigu, and the rest will be punished. You may prate about the Vedas, but you are ignorant of their inner truths. You will be beggars in the world and sit over the yagnas of very few people. Lust, rage, and greed will master you. The luster will fall from your faces, Brahmanas, and the bestial darkness in your hearts will replace it. Daksha, for your sin here one day you will wear the face of a rutting animal." There was an outcry at this, but Shiva remained calm. He saw clearly beyond the wrath of the moment into time's deeper designs. He pacified Nandi, saying nobody should curse. Daksha stormed out of the yagya with malice in his angry heart. So the yagya completed, and time went on. But in some time, Daksha decided to have his own yagya. Huge it was. And everyone was invited, except that he did not invite his daughter Sati and his son-in-law, Lord Shiva. When Sati heard this, she was so dismayed. Sati's eyes were full of tears. She bit her lip and said desperately to her husband Shiva, "Daksha is my father. Varini is my mother. Why have we not been invited to their yagya to which all the devas and rishis are going?" Shiva stroked her face without replying. She cried, "Shiva, come with me to the yagya. I am their daughter, so they did not think they needed to invite me as they would an outsider. Come, my lord, let us go to the yagya." Shiva said, "Daksha is your father, but you must realize he thinks of me as his enemy. He has not invited us to his yagya because he does not want us. I will not go to that sacrifice." But fate laid a hand on Sati. She said, "Oh my Shiva, how will Daksha's sacrifice succeed without your presence? Yet, how do the devas and the Brahma rishis even attend it? If you allow me, I will go to my father's yagya and see for myself." Shiva's heart skipped a beat. Did she doubt him again? It was difficult to say. "Go to your father's yagya," Shiva said, "if you want. Take your servants with you and take the vimana, the sacred vehicle. Go with Nandan and Yagnas." She set out with her companions in the aerial ship, which was covered with beautiful flowers and gold. She shone among them, looking like the full moon in August amongst the stars, that beautiful, beautiful Sati. However, Sati wept when Shiva embraced her before she left. She thought her heart misgave her only because it was the first time she was leaving him even for a day. All too quickly, when he had kissed her fragrant mouth in farewell, it was time for her to leave. The vimana trembled for a moment, and then it flew faster than the speed of lightning to the area where Daksha, her father, was having the yagya. So Sati arrived at her father's yagya, which shone for yojanas with the presence of devas, apsaras, and celestial beings of every kind. Her mother, Varini, and her sisters welcomed her with strained joy. Daksha was livid that she had come. He did not greet her. He did not even look at her. He signaled angrily at his wife and his other daughters so that they also drew away from Sati. Now Sati saw her father's mood clearly. She saw the great shares of the yagya being given to Vishnu, to Brahma, and to the others, and none for Lord Shiva. She went up to Daksha. She addressed her father in a ringing voice. "Why do you slight me, your eldest daughter? Why do you slight my husband, who is the Lord of the universe? This insult to Shiva will ruin you and yours." Daksha said, "My younger daughters are more worthy than you are. Their husbands deserve my respect. They are not like your husband." And he laughed savagely. Sati turned away from him and, gazing fiercely around Yagyashala, cried, "How did Vishnu and Brahma, the Devas and the Rishis agree to attend a yagya to which Shiva was not called. Vishnu, you sing of him as being Saguna and Nirguna. Brahma, he made you four-faced. Indra, have you forgotten how he made ashes of your thunderbolt? Atri, Vashishta, what have you done by coming to this sinful sacrifice? Brahma says, we all squirmed to hear her, but what could we say? Even now Daksha did not hold his tongue. Why did you come here, woman? Said Daksha. Don't speak to me of your husband. Shiva is inauspicious. He is not well-born or noble. The naked skull-carrying upstart is a king of the dead people and bhutas and other ghosts. This yaga is to repent for my sin of giving you to him as his wife. Then more softly, he said, but you are our daughter. If you like, you can stay here, and as my child, I will give you your share of the offerings. Sati said in deadly calm, he who speaks thus of Shiva, the dust from whose feet the devas wear on their heads, will go to hell, and those that listen unprotesting to him. My Lord was right when he said that you were his enemy. Father, I am defiled by your arrogance. I should not have come here. I should have stayed with my husband, because now I can never go back to him. I am still your daughter. I am of your race, your flesh and blood, though I would not choose to be. Evil Daksha, how I hate myself that I am your child. Her eyes blazed with rage and sorrow in equal measure. Look, I cast off this body born from your loins as if it were a corpse. When I am born to a father I can love, I shall be Shiva's wife again. Sati grew awesomely still. She sipped holy water. She covered herself, head and face, with her garment, and thinking of Shiva, entered a yogic trance. She balanced the winds, Pana and Apana. She lifted the third wind, Udana, from her umbilical chakra up through her heart, up through her throat, and fixed it between her eyebrows. In a flash, a fire from within consumed her body, and it fell apart as ashes. Brahma said, I knew it was time to make an exit. I vanished back to Satyaloka. I was shaking. I dared not think what Shiva would do when he heard what had happened. At the Yagyashala, they were rooted in shock when Sati immolated herself. The devas, the rishis, even the darkest asuras were horrified. What she did was so sudden, so irretrievable. Earth and sky resounded with the cries of Sati's ganas. Then, wonder of wonders, instead of attacking anyone, they began to kill themselves, hacking off their own limbs in grief until they fell dead beside their mistress. But those that were not quite so overcome began to make threatening noises. They clashed their weapons together and cried, "Death to Daksha!" At which Daksha's friend Bhrigu poured occult libations into the Dakshina fire, reciting the special mantras to quell the desecrators of the yagyas. Demons of flame, 10,000 blazing ribus, issued in a horde from the pit. Fire with their body, fire their weapons, and screaming horribly, they fell on the rest of the ganas of Shiva. And while the guests of the sacrifice shrank back in terror, the battle was quick and one-sided. The ribus burned the ganas like blades of dry grass, and the few that escaped with their lives fled back to Kailash. Even as the devas stood and watched the bloodshed, tacitly acquiescing on Daksha's part, a voice of thunder spoke in the sky above them. Daksha, look what you have done. Couldn't you listen to Dadichi's warning? Let your yagya be ruined and your face burnt up by your sin. Vain Daksha, this day shall be your last, and anyone that helps you, they too will burn like moths. The devas and rishis stood stunned, and bravest of them quaked to hear that voice. But it was too late to relent. Their lot was cast with Daksha. Mortified, you, Narada, went with the Ganas to Kailash, and they babbled incoherently to Shiva about what transpired at Daksha's yagya. He raised a hand to silence them. Then he returned to you. Muni, Narada, what happened, and where is Sati? Though you were never a coward, your knees turned to water and you trembled, somehow not looking into his great face while his eyes never left yours. Stammering, you told him about the tragedy. By the time you finished, you sobbed like a child. If Shiva was sorry, he did not show it by crying. He grew quieter and quieter. His stillness was a thing of untold menace. At last, raising his face to the sky, Shiva howled like a beast of the wild that had lost its mate. It seemed the sun might fall out of the sky with that sound. His body shook as shock struck him through. He fell down, he rolled in the dust, then sorrow turned to wrath. Bole Baba Ki Jai. We'll go on and find out what happened next with Shiva and Daksha. And looking at what arrogance can do. Bole Baba Ki Jai.